Good morning, students. In the previous class, we have completed the topic cardiac cycle. Today, we'll discuss one more important aspect related to the transportation in human beings, which is lymph. It is also called as tissue fluid, or we also call it as middleman, or by the one more name named interstitial fluid. So first of all, let us try to understand what is lymph. We have discussed the differences between the arteries and veins. We have discussed regarding the arteries are the blood vessels which carry the blood away from the heart, whereas the veins are the blood vessels which bring blood back to the heart. So, we have discussed in the cardiac cycle that when the blood is pumped through the left ventricle with the help of dorsal aorta, it circulates the oxygen-rich blood to the different parts of the body. So, it enters within any tissue or cell to divide and redivide again and again. So it forms minute blood vessels which are called arterioles, and these arterioles they again bifurcate and joins to venule through a thin network of blood vessels which is called as capillary. So when the blood flows through the capillaries, means when the blood enters through these arterioles within this capillary network of blood vessels, what happens from the arterial end to the venous end? This is the venous end. It's fluid plasma. So we have discussed in the components of blood that blood, it is made up of plasma, the fluid matrix, and the cells of the blood. So that the plasma, which is the major component of the blood, it filters out of the thin walled capillaries at the arterial end. It is similar to the plasma. So at this point the permeability is very much high, and due to that reason the blood plasma, it filters out of the blood surrounding the tissues or cells, and it is similar to plasma. It bathes all the cells and facilitates the exchange between blood and body cells by the process of diffusion. So this fluid is called as tissue fluid, or it is also called as interstitial fluid. So most of the tissue fluid, around about 90%, is reabsorbed and gets back into the capillaries at the venous end to complete the blood volume, whereas rest of the 10% fluid, it flows through a system of fine thin walled channels called lymphatic capillaries. So the tissue fluid, whichever is left over here, it flows through another thin network channels which is called as lymphatic capillaries of the lymphatic system. So the tissue fluid on entering the lymphatic capillaries is called the lymph. So that particular tissue fluid, while it enters the lymphatic capillaries, it is called lymph, and the lymph is collected in the lymph vessels and poured back into the blood in the vena cava. So there we have discussed that the blood is brought back to the heart through superior and inferior vena cava, and at that particular point the lymph is poured back to the blood near the heart region. So we'll try to understand about the functions of lymph. So lymph acts as a middleman between the blood and the tissue fluid. So it performs major functions. First, it helps in the distribution of nutrients as well as oxygen to the tissue cells. So obviously its permeability within the capillary region is very much high. So the lymph, it helps to distribute the nutrients as well as the oxygen in the diffusion of oxygen to the tissue cells. Second point, it helps in the absorption of fatty acids and glycerol in villi through lacteals. In the part of digestion, we have discussed in the diagram that as the fatty acids and glycerols, they are not absorbed readily in the blood, so they are absorbed through the lacteals, and this particular lymph, it helps to facilitate the absorption of fatty acids and glycerol within the villi. Third point, it helps in the removal of carbon dioxide and nitrogenous waste from the tissue cells. So while during the circulation of blood, it helps in the removal of the carbon dioxide and nitrogenous waste from the tissue cells. And fourth point, lymph, as it carries lymphocytes, so it is having the capability to destroy many harmful pathogens present within the body. The fifth point, it carries lymphocytes and antibodies from lymph nodes to the blood. So it carries the certain lymphocytes, which are the defensive cells, and the protective proteins known as antibodies from lymph nodes to the blood. So if we want to understand what are lymph nodes, just you simply understand that lymph nodes, they are formed of lymphatic tissue. So the lymph nodes, they are the sites of the lymphocytes maturation. And we have discussed in class 9 about the composition of blood within the white blood cell. They are having different types of cells, out of which we have discussed about the basophils, eosinophils, neutrophils, lymphocytes and monocytes. So these lymph nodes, they are the sites of lymphocytes maturation. And for example, thymus and the spleen. So thymus, that is a particular organ present near to the chest, in the chest region, and spleen, they are the lymphocyte organs, whereas the tonsils and the adenoids, they are the masses of lymphatic tissue. So we can say the lymph or tissue fluid, it plays an important role in maintaining the exchange of the different types of nutrients as well as waste products, as well as to destroy the pathogens. Now we will start a new aspect, which is transportation in the case of plants. As we might observe in nature, and also we have discussed in class 9 the basic differences between the plant body and the animal body, is that the plants, they do not move, they are stationary, they are fixed at their specific points. So a different other type of mechanism for the conduction of nutrients as well as the waste products. So we'll discuss that topic. We also know that the plant body, it is mostly made up of dead cells. So in that case, they do not require so much energy as compared to the live cells, and they also have much simple and slow transport system as compared to the animals. So we'll discuss about the necessity of transport system within the plant body. So transport system is essential for the movement of vital substances from source to sinks. For example, just a rough sketch of a tree we have drawn here. We may observe that the particular tree will absorb the minerals, the nutrients, the water from the soil, and it will send to the leaves, where the photosynthesis process will occur and the food would be prepared. So in this case, the source would be the soil and the sink would be the leaves, where the food is to be prepared. Just like the food, whatever has been prepared within the leaves, now it has to be distributed to all over the parts of the tree, whether it is the tip of the root or whether the stem or the branches or like that. So in that case, the leaves would act as a source, and the areas where the prepared food has to send, they would be acting as sinks. So that do we have just now discussed. Plants absorb water and minerals from the soil by the help of their roots, but it has to be sent to the leaves for the process of photosynthesis. So in this case, the roots would be the source and the leaves would be the sink. Whereas the food prepared in the leaves need to be distributed throughout the plant body up to the tip of the roots also. So in that case, we may consider that the leaves would be acting as source and the tip of the roots would be acting as sink. So we may categorize that plants, they have two independent transport systems. The first, that is to absorb and transport water and minerals from the roots to the leaves. So that we have discussed in class 9, a special type of vascular tissue or conductive tissue present within the plant body, which is called xylem. It helps to fulfill the process. So this movement would be categorized under the category xylem transport, and whereas it also helps to distribute food from leaves to all parts of the plant. When the food is prepared within the leaves to all the different parts of that particular plant body, and that is carried out or fulfilled through another type of conductive tissue which is called as phloem. So that would be categorized under the category phloem transport. So now we'll try to understand that how the conduction of water and minerals do takes place within a plant body. So we know that the xylem tissue, it helps in the water conducting system throughout the plant body, and we have discussed in class 9 the different components present within the xylem tissue. They were called xylem parenchyma, xylem sclerenchyma, xylem tracheids and xylem vessels. So xylem vessels and tracheids of the roots and stems and leaves, they are interconnected. So just in the diagrammatic view we have drawn here to understand how do the conduction of water and minerals do take place through the plant body. So the xylem vessels and tracheids, they are interconnected starting from the root up to the leaf, and they forms a continuous system of water conducting channels. So water and minerals are absorbed by the roots, hairs, and are transported through xylem vessels to the leaves at the top of the plant. So the upward movement which is taking place within the xylem vessels, and we can say from the roots to the aerial parts of the plant against the gravitational force, is called as ascent of sap. So we also call it as ascent of sap. So let us first of all try to understand the diagram. Here I have drawn the root hair cell, the elongated root hair cell. The next to it is the epidermal layer, which is the outermost layer of the root cell, followed by the root cortex, and afterwards the endodermis, and then is the xylem vessel. So if we'll cut through the section, or we'll go through the section, transverse section of the root, we will follow these layers which are present in a sequence way. And here we have drawn the soil particles within which the minerals, or that we can say the different types of minerals, are present along with the water. At the top end we have shown here the leaf cell, the structure of leaf. The upper layer is called the epidermis, and the below layer is the abaxial epidermis, within which the stomata, or we can say the stomatal aperture, have been shown here. If we'll go through the factors or the causative forces or factors which are responsible for the movement or conduction of water and minerals through the xylem vessels, we have categorized them. We will discuss one by one. The first one is the root pressure, second transpirational pull, third cohesive force, the fourth adhesive force, and the fifth surface tension. So first of all, the different minerals which are present within the soil particles, for example calcium ions, sodium ions, potassium ions, magnesium ions, they are transported actively, means they are actively transported through the root hair cells. So we know the meaning of active transport means there would be expenditure of energy, and may the transport may take place from a region of its lower concentration to a region of its higher concentration, means the movement may occur against the concentration gradient. So as the absorption of minerals will take place through the active transport method, what may be the consequence? The potential gradient of water decreases within the root hair cells, and as the water potential is high outside the root hair cells, the water diffuses rapidly, or it diffuses readily within the root hair cells through passive transport, means along the concentration gradient, means without the expenditure of energy, or we can say from a region of higher water potential region to a region of its lower water potential region, due to which we can say pressure is developed, and that pressure, it causes movement of the sap up to certain height. So that particular pressure which has been created is called as root pressure, but this root pressure is not able to, we can say, send the sap up to so much height. So this root pressure may act as a modest pull in the overall process of water transport, but they obviously do not play a major role in the water movement up all within the tall trees. So the greatest contribution of root pressure may be to re-establish the continuous chains of water molecules in the xylem, which often breaks under the enormous tensions created by the transpiration. So do we enter the next aspect, which is transpirational pull? Do we know that the plants they release or they evaporate the water through their certain openings, which is called as stomata, in the form of water vapor. And also the stomata, do we know, they help in the exchange of gases, oxygen and carbon dioxide according to the requirement of the plant body. So the transpirational pull, it acts as a major driving force in the upliftment of water up to so much height. We may imagine the height of the trees, they are so much up to so much taller that within that particular extreme height condition also they are able to uplift the water. So the major driving force is the transpirational pull, which helps to uplift the water through the xylem vessels. And the xylem vessels, it always contains water as a continuous column from the root tips to the mesophyll cells of the leaves. As we know, the water is lost from the leaves due to the physical process which is called transpiration, and it is consumed in the process of photosynthesis, and the water column becomes greatly stressed, but water column does not break due to some more properties, or we can say factors, which are the cohesive forces and adhesive forces. So what do we mean by the cohesive force? Means the mutual attraction between the water molecules is known as the cohesive force, which helps in the proper upliftment of the water molecules, whereas the adhesive force, it is the attraction of water molecules to the polar surfaces as the surface of the trachyary elements. So means that the force acting between the water molecules and the wall of the xylem vessels, that is called as adhesive force. And whereas the fifth, one more important factor, which is called surface tension, it is the tension, or we can say water molecules are attracted to each other in the liquid phase more than to water in the gas phase. So these all properties, they give water high tensile strength, that is an ability to resist a pulling force, and high capillarity, due to which we can say the ability to rise in thin tubes. So in plants, capillarity is added by the small diameter of the trachyary elements, which are the tracheids and the vessel elements. If we go to the certain facts, we may know that the plants or trees, whatever they absorb the amount of water, out of which around about 99% is again released to the atmosphere back, only 1 to 2% is utilized in the process of photosynthesis. So what is the need of the absorption of water, or we can say the role of transpiration, that it helps to create a suction pull through which it helps to uplift the water through these xylem vessels, through which it is able to readily absorb the minerals in dissolved form, because the minerals, they are present within the soil particles and they can only be readily absorbed in dissolved form. So that the transpirational pull, it helps to create the suction pull through which it helps to absorb or uplift the water from the source, which are the roots, to the sink, which are the leaves, where the food has to be prepared through the process of photosynthesis. The transpiration, it also helps to maintain the temperature of the plant body up to its required optimum level. So till so far here, in the next class we'll discuss about the transport of food or translocation, or we may say the phloem transport through the phloem tissue. Thank you. Have a nice day.